Welcome back to Jake GTV News. Candace Owens is being hunted by the French First Lady for calling him a dude.
Wow, how have we not been canceled yet?
I have no idea.
Are you not afraid in a earthly, motherly way for the potential consequences of what you're saying? Also, bloody hell, mate, are you not a bit worried that you might get murdered?
There were, for whatever reason, 12 Israeli cell phones on the ground at Utah Valley University the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. This has completely spooked the people that are very high up in government. Now, to be clear, I don't mean that there were 12 VPNs that were switched and routed through Israel on that day. I mean that there were 12 personal cell phone accounts that were opened in Israel, okay? Like you go into Verizon in Tennessee or in Connecticut and you open your phone. I am saying that they opened their phones in Israel, those accounts in Israel, and they were on the ground on September 10th at Utah Valley University when Charlie was shot.
Where is the corroboration? What are we seeing that's indefatigable? What are we seeing in the case of, were Israel involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Is there some connection to Israel? Do you think the nationhood of Israel is fundamental in even issues as seemingly diffuse and only really connected through you know, and you being the person that's reported on them, as Brigitte Macron's true identity and Charlie Kirk's murder? Do you think these things are connected?
Yes, I think it's all connected. And I think in many ways we already live in this one world government system. Maybe it's two world. But in terms of the West, I don't think there's any difference in the governments. And that's kind of the point that we're making. And maybe why the Charlie Kirk case is so crucial, because it's showing us that, wait, what is the divide here between America and Israel and France, right? I just told people that somebody in the French government alerted me to an assassination attempt. Shouldn't that require a comment from the President of the United States? Shouldn't the President of the United States be forced to make a statement about that? He received that information. Wouldn't you think it was the most viral global story for 3 days, and the White House has chosen not to comment? What does that signal to the population? That it's okay for France to be involved in attempts, that they're, at least if he thought that I was completely making it up and I gave him the evidence and it was made up, he would be required to come out and say, we are looking at that situation and that there's nothing here. There's no evidence of that. They're doing none of that. And that should alarm people. That should very much alarm people.
Somebody directly involved in the booking process has confirmed to me that the Egyptians who flew to Provo ahead of the Charlie Kirk assassination were staying at the La Quinta Inn and Suites in Orem, Utah.
If Charlie had died in an accident, I don't think it would have had the same impact, but they chose to publicly execute him.
I don't know. It's in us all, isn't it? I mean, some people shy away from it. Some people, they don't want to talk about grief and terrible things because they think it's sort of off-putting, or sometimes it's too distressing, or it's not that sort of thing. I like going there because it's something you can do that no one else can quite do. You know, no one can play your version of emotions like you. If you do it honestly, then that's as good as it can be. So, you know, and I don't know, I just feel like I want to be braver and more honest. So, you know, you just go there. Just sort of go there. Otherwise, you know, things stay taboo if you don't confront them. So, I've always liked realism, I guess.
Can you explain that to me? Because I don't understand who benefits from, but I also know that whenever I've seen it my whole life, a long RFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, I know that's a lie, so I'm open. So what is it?
So look, I can tell you that from the moment that Charlie got shot, and I can't explain it, and maybe it's because Charlie would tell me all the time that he was going to die young, and I showed those messages, and I just knew that this was big. I knew it was big. I didn't have the players. I certainly didn't suspect Turning Point USA would be, as I believe, involved in a cover-up. And we can talk about what the motives are of that. They could be financial motives. It doesn't necessarily mean they were involved in plotting to kill him. And I've never said that. But I do believe that they have betrayed him since. And I am comfortable saying that today. Because I know that they have told lies. I know that they have withheld information, that if truly you were motivated by goodness and truth, you would come out and you would say it. Like there are people at Turning Point who Charlie texted the night before and said they're going to kill me. Well, if you're trying to figure out who killed Charlie Kirk, wouldn't that be a good thing to come forward with and to the public and say Charlie thought that he was going to be murdered the night before? And they're not doing that. So to me, to not assist that investigation is not something that I'm going to ignore. Also, to not answer basic questions that if I said to you, Russell, where were you when Charlie got shot? You're not going to get defensive and weird. You're just going to, I can tell you where I was. I was sitting plotting, planning my next show at the kitchen counter, and they are being very strange about details on that day. It makes me uncomfortable. If someone, the easier task, if the internet thinks that, Mikey McCoy, who was the person who, instantly picked up the phone and walked away when Charlie got shot, who was the chief of staff, if people find that behavior to be suspicious, and I do find it to be not what I would do if a shot went off. Obviously everybody else ran or ducked and he instantly picked up a phone. I would just show my call log and I would be like, guys, this is crazy. Like I called my mom and and so it's the absence of answering and the blaming and the yelling that feels off to people. And I think that's fair. I think spiritually people are sensing their intuition is coming online and saying, this just doesn't feel right. So you have to ask the question, why lie? And I think that just any lie at all makes me feel uncomfortable because lies are not necessary unless you're covering something up. No matter what the lie is, why do we lie? To cover something up. So that's a fair assessment that they're engaged in some sort of a cover up, whether it's about his legacy, where he was at spiritually. And then you have to ask deeper questions. Why? Sure, like I'm lying when I very lightly in reminiscing about me and Charlie mentioned that, our last conversation.
Hey, everyone. Candace Owens has certainly been a hot topic of conversation over the past couple of months on social media. I would say ever since Charlie Kirk was tragically murdered back in September. And I'm not going to comment on some of her theories and the things that she said about that and about the Macrons and other people. If that's what her thing is, then that's what her thing is. She certainly, seemed to want to become the #1 podcaster, so she created a lot of controversy. That's what does it seems. But here's what I have to say. Her husband, why would he allow her to do this? Because she is really getting a lot of hate mail. A lot of people are turning on her, really putting her in a situation where people are hating on her. Why would you allow your wife to be put in that position? I would never put my wife in that position, not for social media, not for money, not for anything. To be so hated? I mean, she's out there, she's in public. She's claiming now that the Macrons have, a hit out on her. They want to assassinate her. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about just normal people on social media that have really turned on her and really have spewed hatred out on her. Why would you allow your wife to be put in that position? I hold him fully responsible. I would never put my wife in that position to where people hate on her so much because of what she's doing on social media. I think that's, 100% wrong on his part. And I don't know what their motive is. He's got plenty of money. They don't need money. It was him that I believe caused her to leave the Christian church and become a Catholic. It's still Christianity, but, she turned to Catholicism. He seems to have a lot of pull over her. Why would he put her in jeopardy like that? I hold him 100% responsible if something would have happened to her. Any lunatic could take a shot at her for whatever reason, but she set herself up for it. No one to blame but her, and I hold him responsible. I hope nothing happens to her, but in my view, 100% responsible, not manly, not what a husband should be doing, not one bit.
Also, bloody hell, mate, are you not a bit worried that you might get...
My greatest fear is not getting into heaven because I actually am a Christian, and I question the Christians who lie, who choose to lie because they are so attached to the earthly possessions that they are getting in terms of money. My bigger fear is my children growing up in a world that's run by pedophiles. That terrifies me. And to be clear, I did not go into this consciously. Right.
Yeah.
When I was covering the Brigitte and Emmanuel story, if you thought that I would end up here and suddenly questioning whether or not Brigitte could have been in America on that day, which is where I'm at right now, you're out of your mind. I mean, I literally thought, oh my God, this is so funny. Like,
Just
this is
thought it was
like
funny.
Yes, like this person, like I read the story, and quite literally, this whole thing starts with a Daily Mail article where I saw a headline that Emmanuel Macron denies his wife's a man. This had not broken in the English speaking world. So I was like, what a strange little, what's going on in France that this president has to come out and deny that his wife's a man? Like, that's funny. And I read the article, and the Daily Mail article was not sufficient in debunking it. It was kind of, and this is obviously ridiculous and crazy, and all of the words. And they're like, there's this one photo or two photos of Brigitte as a child. And I'm like, what do you mean as a child? Like, there should just be tons of photos because she has children. And so then I pivoted to where the rumors came from, and I sat there and I read, and my jaw hit the floor. I was like, what do you mean there's just no photos for 30 years of somebody's life? This can't be a real thing. And I thought this was so interesting that the implications here for me that I thought were more severe is that the entire media of France would collude to hide this very obvious thing, right? So it was more like, this is funny. And then I get fired from a Daily Wire almost, I think, 2 weeks after covering that story. Covered it in March. I got fired in March of 2024. The next thing I know, I'm fired. I start my new podcast. I get demonetized on YouTube. They're hitting me over speaking about the Brigitte thing again. And come December, I'm getting a cease and desist from the president of France. And then come February, I'm getting a phone call from the president of the United States. And I'm going, what is going on? People kind of had a base assumption that people in France are into some weird stuff. Nobody had an assumption that this could cause an international crisis.